let me start off by saying I told my grandson that I would be coming here, and he gave me for Christmas these, and for another one, a birthday, and he said, "Grandpa," and my granddaughter said as well, "We'll buy you these socks. We're going to buy a pair for ourselves, and whenever you talk, we're going to wear the same pair of socks." So for those of you who are glancing down, it's not an irrational step. These are for my grandchildren. I'm in the business of inventing new products, and since I got into that business close to 50 years ago, I watched the definition of a commodity change dramatically. It went from a primary bulk storable commodity, and only those characteristics would allow itself to be traded on a market. The primary went down the drain when plywood started. Then storability went down the drain when we started trading hogs and cattle. Then bulk went down the drain when we started trading foreign currencies. And then commodity went down the drain when we started trading financial futures, interest rates, and stock indices. In that period of time from 1970, to 2010, the industry grew by 18.3% compounded. 13 million contracts to 22.3 billion. And virtually all of that was from new commodities: energy, stock options, carbon, financial futures, interest rates. All of these were breakthrough. So at least in that business, and that's what part of this talk is about, is embrace change. This industry, which was nowhere 40 years ago, has emerged as a giant. I got approached in the 1980s, and somebody said to me, "Geez, you commoditized interest rates. You created a fictional long-term bond, and it's managed to trade very well. Do you think you could commoditize air?" And I said, "Yeah, well, we're talking about a bill in Congress. It's called the Clean Air Act, and I wondered if you would write a position paper advocating a market-based solution to acid rain." So I did. I went to Washington, supported the legislation, and supported something that's called cap and trade. So what is cap and trade? Aside from being a dirty word in the United States and in Washington, D.C. So let's suppose there's two utilities. One's TED Energy and the other's Richard Energy. And we're both told that we have to reduce our emissions by 10%. If you allow TED Energy, because it's much better and has a technological solution, to drive its emissions 20% lower, that is an incremental 10%, and Richard Energy doesn't have enough plant and equipment to modify his boilers and to change fuel, then I buy TED's super reductions. And what that has done, the same 10% is reduced, but TED Energy, which can do it a lot better than Richard Energy, drives the whole process. I don't have to shut down my plant. I don't have to fire people. I don't have to lower it out. At that particular point, people who had interests other than the environment, okay, weighed in, and they said, and remember, acid rain at that time, and most of you have not seen, Michael Douglas was making movies like Black Rain. The pictures you see of Beijing and Shanghai were floating on televisions in the 80s. We were emitting 18 million tons of sulfur into the atmosphere. And sulfur goes into the atmosphere when you burn coal. And when you burn coal, that sulfur combines with oxygen, rain comes, and it's black rain, literally. Well, we passed this act, and in 1980, we emitted 18 million tons of SO2. Last year, we emitted 3 million. The energy prices didn't go up. Power didn't go up. But we saved $123 billion of medical expenses associated with lung disease. The program came and went and was so successful, nobody even remembers it. And we saved 40,000 lives a year as a result of no lung disease. And yet cap and trade is an ugly word. Now, let me fast forward as I can. I got approached in '92. People said, you worked on acid rain. What about climate change? I went down to Rio and gave a talk and said, you can commoditize carbon and you could have a market-based solution to global warming. And you can do it painlessly with no problems whatsoever. And so I set about trying to do that and formed an exchange in Chicago in 2002. We ultimately formed one in London in 2003, one in China, and a voluntary market in the United States, which turned out to be successful. So part of my charge here was to tell you what's the future of carbon markets in the 3 minutes that I have left. If you look at what is going on, I'm going to make a bold statement that all of these commodities that bubbled up, okay, that the biggest future, and please keep this in mind, and the most important commodities of the 21st century will be clean air and clean water. These will have as profound effect on the world as any revolution in derivative trading, stock options, things like that. It doesn't matter. So where are we now? You can see the green is where cap and trade for carbon is. We're doing climate change work. You can also notice, if you carefully look at the map, you can easily see that creativity and invention is inversely related to the distance from Washington, D.C. So the further you go, the more you get environmental programs that are market-based from Washington, D.C. So go to California, trendsetter for good or bad. I taught at Berkeley in the 60s. I loved it. It was great fun. But California has a cap and trade market. Right now, it's bigger than lumber, okay? Go to China, there's 7 markets that are coming up. It's like a lazy Susan if you've eaten in Chinatown or at a restaurant. There's one in Tianjin, Shanghai, Beijing, Chongqing, Hubei, Shenzhen, you name it, and the Chinese are starting it. It's alive and successful in Europe, where the EU has cut emissions of carbon from 8% to 17%, okay? They're down, they were supposed to be down 8, they're down 17. The markets have worked efficiently, and in spite of the Great Recession and the financial meltdown, the European emissions are dropping, and not because of it, in spite of it. Efficiency, energy, things of that nature. So, I think ultimately, anybody who's working in that pollution, that you can effectively achieve social objectives and environmental objectives with financial incentives. Lynn, I'm not like Mother Teresa. I don't have that in me. But I think most people, if you put the right financial incentives together with the right social objectives, that's where it stops. Where else are we going to conclude? Air, water, biodiversity, endangered species, commoditizing education and medicine. All of those examples where economists call externalities or market failures represent the opportunities of the 20th century. Look at this, and when I teach, I say basically, and look at it yourself, Where do you think the world will be in 2050, and where do you want to be in that world? Do not imagine it as today. Imagine it as tomorrow. Thank you.